Happy Monday. I hope you had an amazing holiday and that you got to spend it making some memories with some of your favorite people. So coming off of the holidays, people usually are feeling kind of bloated, a little bit heavy, a little bit lethargic, and they just want to clean it up. Sound familiar? And so with that being said, I want to give you my top 3 tips for coming off of the holidays, helping you to sort of de-bloat and prepare yourself for whatever goals that you do have moving into the new year. Number 1, I would definitely encourage you not to go overly restrictive on what you choose to do with your diet or your nutrition protocol next. What I would encourage you to do is gain some understanding of what your body was previously used to consuming throughout the course of a week leading up to the holidays. Then what you're going to do with that information is you're going to take it and divide it by 7 to see what is your daily average caloric intake. From there, you're going to try to estimate what you took in at whatever holiday get-togethers that you did have over this past weekend. You're going to determine then what is the difference between that number and what you were previously averaging. And then what you can do instead of totally restricting yourself is to take those calories away from the next 5 days inside of the upcoming week. And then what I would advise you to do going into next weekend is just to resume at whatever previous caloric intake your body was currently used to. Now, there are a number of reasons why I would suggest this, and we're going to deep dive this inside of a training tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. And this topic will actually also come up in next week's YouTube clip. Where I want to take this conversation next is, rather than going into that full-blown restrictive mode, we now have some strategy of sort of how to modulate our calories moving into a new week to allow our digestive system a little bit of a break. And we want to take that a step further. And what I want to offer to you today is 2 more pieces of advice, and these ones are going to be more specific to your meal prep. Number 1, you want to make sure that you are getting in adequate amounts of protein inside of each meal and or snack that you do consume. Some higher protein containing foods that you might consider including in your meal prep would be chicken. You can choose chicken breasts, chicken thighs. The breasts are, of course, going to be a little bit leaner. You can choose a leaner cut of ground beef. I usually strive for 90% or above. I just wouldn't necessarily encourage anybody to do anything less than 85%. Some people's digestion can manage a higher fat content in the less lean ground beefs, but for purposes of today, most people are probably gonna wanna stick with the leaner cuts anyways. You can also do things like tuna or salmon or some type of whitefish, maybe even some bison if you're feeling like a little bit more gamey. Of course, we have eggs and whey protein or vegan formulated protein powders that we can add to that list, beef jerkies, things of that nature. So we just want to make sure that every time we're consuming a meal or a snack that we're getting at least 30 grams of protein inside of those meals. And the last piece of advice for today would be to make sure that you are hitting a minimum, bare bones minimum of 25 grams of fiber throughout the day. Some higher fiber containing foods might be oats, nuts, seeds, pretty much any vegetable, right? Some are definitely going to have a little bit more fiber content than others, but you're pretty safe to assume that you're increasing that number by adding vegetables to your diet. And then, so taking that protein and that fiber recommendation a bit further, if you want to look at using a plated approach, making sure you always have your 30 grams of protein, you're filling roughly a third to half of your plate with fiber, and then you're finishing it off with something that's maybe a little bit more simple relative to the carbohydrate that you choose or other type of starch that you might choose. I actually created a guide. It's called the Ultimate Meal Prep Guide, and it's designed specifically to help you hit the bare minimum nutritional demands that majority of women in our society have before any level of exercise is considered. So you don't have to be a workout fanatic to require the demands recommended to you inside of this guide. Again, we are going to deep dive all of that on a training tonight at 6 p.m. So I would love to invite you to join us for more on that. Even if you can't join us live, the replay will be available. So I will include the link where you can join us for that live discussion, and that way you can also get the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have around these topics. So really quick recap, do not restrict yourself going forward. Make sure you're getting enough protein. Make sure you're getting enough fiber, and then fill in the gaps for your caloric demands with some type of carbohydrate that you really enjoy. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day and joining me here. Don't forget, next week I'll be deep diving the topic of why we should not right into massively restrictive dietary protocols. It needs its own video, so we're going to make sure to honor that. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you next week.